Hello and welcome to the news from Bahrain International. I am Mohammed Yusuf. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received at Safriya Palace the former presidents of the United Nations General Assembly to greet His Majesty on the occasion of their visit to the kingdom upon His Majesty's invitation to participate in the meeting of the Council of Presidents of the UNGA hosted by Bahrain. The delegation of former presidents of the UNGA included the chairperson of the Council of Presidents of the UNGA and president of the 56th session, Dr. Han Sang-soo, the vice president and president of the 57th session, John Kovan, the president of the 61st session, Sheikh Hayya bint Rashid Al Khalifa, the president of the 62nd session, Sarjan Karim, the president of the 65th session, Joseph Dees, the president of the 67th session, Vuk Yeremich, the president of the 70th session, Morgan Laikitoft, the president of the 72nd session, Miroslav Lajak, and the director of the UN Counterterrorism Center, Dr. Jangir Khan. His Majesty welcomed them and thanked them for accepting the invitation to visit Bahrain and expressed Bahrain's welcome to host this meeting with the participation of a distinguished elite of prominent UN figures. He commended their efforts, which resulted in enhancing the UN's role at the international level, noting the friendship ties and cooperation between Bahrain and their countries in all fields in the interest of all. His Majesty wished their meeting success in serving the goals of the international organization and laying the foundations of international peace and security to achieve progress and prosperity for all. His Majesty the King hailed the level of cooperation and partnership between Bahrain and the UN at all levels, affirming its important role in enhancing regional and international security, peace and stability, adopting initiatives and finding solutions to various global issues and problems, in addition to its efforts to combat environmental and natural disasters, climate change and poverty, preserve the environment and provide care and attention to humanitarian services. They discussed a number of issues and regional international developments. The former president of the UNGA expressed thanks and appreciation to His Majesty for the warm welcome and generous hospitality and for hosting their meeting, and hailed Bahrain's vital role in supporting the UN's efforts. They also briefed His Majesty on the most important issues that will be discussed during the meeting and praised the development Bahrain is witnessing under the leadership of His Majesty the King. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received a cable of congratulations from His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa on the success of the 19th edition of the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. His Royal Highness said that the success of the global event reflects His Majesty's wise directives and continued support for Bahrain to be a prominent destination on the map of Formula One racing sport. His Royal Highness reaffirmed his commitment to continue with the determination of the loyal people of Bahrain, who exert their tireless efforts to highlight the kingdom's bright image and to enhance its standing at all levels. He expressed thanks and gratitude to His Majesty the King, pledging to continue the dedicated work to accomplish the royal visions, aspirations, and achieve comprehensive development goals for more successes in organizing major international events. His Royal Highness prayed to Allah the Almighty to protect His Majesty the King and bless him with abundant health and happiness. His Majesty sent a reply cable to His Royal Highness in which he congratulated him on the success of the Formula One event and affirmed that the success of the global sporting event reflects the dedicated efforts of His Royal Highness to achieve the best results to consolidate Bahrain's bright image and reputation in the world. His Majesty wished His Royal Highness success to attain further honorable achievements. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa attended the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023 yesterday, where he toured the Bahrain International Circuit track to meet with fans and review preparations for the race. His Royal Highness emphasized that the success of the Formula One event is a testament to the kingdom's capacity for hosting international sporting events and reflects His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa's aspirations. He welcomed this year's attendees and commended the efforts of Team Bahrain and their contribution to the kingdom's continued successes. His Royal Highness was accompanied by the First Deputy Chairman of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports, Chairman of the General Sports Authority, and President of the Bahrain Olympic Committee, His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Isa bin Salman Educational Charitable Trust, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and a number of senior officials. The Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa chaired the weekly cabinet meeting at Gdaybiya Palace. The cabinet extended its congratulations to His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa following the success of the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. The cabinet noted that the race was well attended and commended Team Bahrain's role in the event's organization and success. The cabinet welcomed His Majesty the King's invitation for the Kingdom of Bahrain to host the meeting of the Council of Presidents of the UN General Assembly, which will be held under the chairmanship or chairperson of the UNCPGA, Dr. Hans Song-Soo. The cabinet highlighted the importance of this international meeting in consolidating the objectives of the United Nations, particularly the maintenance of international peace and security. In celebration of International Women's Day, the cabinet commended the Kingdom's comprehensive women's advancement programs and policies led by the Supreme Council for Women, headed by wife of His Majesty the King and President of the SCW, Her Royal Highness Princess Sabika bint Ibrahim Al Khalifa. The Cabinet then approved the following: a memorandum by the Ministerial Committee for Financial and Economic Affairs and Fiscal Balance on the latest developments regarding the e-passport plan, a memorandum by the Ministerial Committee for Legal and Legislative Affairs regarding a draft decision to restructure the Water Resources Council, a memorandum by the Ministerial Committee for Legal and Legislative Affairs regarding the restructuring of a number of councils and committees led by the Minister of Interior, and a number of memorandums by the Ministerial Committee for Legal and Legislative Affairs regarding the government's response to a proposal and a legislative proposal submitted by the Council of Representatives. The Cabinet then reviewed a memorandum submitted by the Ministerial Committee for Legal and Legislative Affairs regarding a draft decision aimed at regulating the work of private higher education institutions, as well as a draft decision regulating investigation procedures for violations committed by individuals authorized to establish higher education institutions. The Cabinet also reviewed a memorandum submitted by the Ministerial Committee for Legal and Legislative Affairs regarding a draft decision specifying the language to be used before courts and the Bahrain Chamber for dispute resolution other than Arabic, as well as the methods of the scope and application. In light of a report submitted by the Minister of Health, the Cabinet welcomed the World Health Organization's accreditation of Ali, Psaitin and Asaya as healthy cities, as well as the accreditation of 5 local universities as healthy universities. The Cabinet acknowledged these accreditations as international appreciation for the plans, programs and government efforts made in health and social development. The Cabinet then took note of the following ministerial reports: the Kingdom's participation in the 40th session of the Council of Arab Interior Ministers, the Kingdom's participation in the 52nd regular session of the Human Rights Council, the outcomes of the visit of the President of Turkmenistan, Sardar Berdimuhamedov, to Bahrain, the Minister of Works' visit to the UAE, the Kingdom's participation in the first regional conference on social welfare policies and achieving social security, the Kingdom's participation in the summit-level meeting of the non-aligned movement on post-COVID-19 recovery, the Kingdom's participation in the 3rd Higher Committee meeting of the Integrated Industrial Partnership for Sustainable Economic Development. His Majesty the King's Representative for Humanitarian Work and Youth Affairs, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, congratulated His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa on the success of the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. His Highness also congratulated His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa. He commended the role played by His Royal Highness in turning Bahrain into a major destination for motorsport in the world. His Highness stated that hosting the Formula One races in Bahrain reflected the Kingdom's investment in sports championships to support economic tourism and development strides. His Highness said that the success of the 3-day race further bolstered Bahrain's standing as an attractive destination for major sporting events and showcased the Kingdom's developing strides. He commended national cadres, hailing their success in organizing the international race, appreciating their contribution of all public and private parties to the success of the event. In line with the vision of His Majesty the King and the aspiration of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, the representative of His Majesty the King for Humanitarian Work and Youth Affairs, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Oil and Gas Holding Company, Noga Holding, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, issued an edict appointing representatives of Noga Holding at the Board of Directors of the Bahrain Aviation Fueling Company, BAFCO. Under the edict, Sheikh Ibrahim bin Khalid Al Khalifa was appointed as BAFCO Board of Directors Chairman, while Muhammad Saeed al-Shihab and Abdullah Isa al-Manna'i were appointed as board members. The edict is part of the Noga Holding's efforts to rely on local competencies to promote development in its subsidiaries in line with its future strategies and in order to ensure sustainability. The first Deputy Chairman of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports, Chairman of the General Sports Authority and President of Bahrain Olympic Committee, His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, honored Red Bull racer Max Verstappen with the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. The Chairman of Gulf Air Holding Board of Directors, Zaid Al-Zayani, honored the first and second place winners from Red Bull. The Minister of Youth, Rawan Tawfiqi, honored Sergio Perez for winning second place, while the Chairman of the Bahrain Motor Federation, Sheikh Abdullah bin Isa Al Khalifa, honored Austin Martin for winning third place. His Highness expressed congratulations to His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa following the success of the 19th edition of the Formula One. He praised the remarkable success achieved by the event, which is recorded in its series of successes over the years. His Highness said that thanks to the support of His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness, as well as the people of Bahrain, hosting the Formula One resulted in tremendous success. He added that this edition witnessed the attendance of around 100,000 people, which reflected the high status of this high-profile event and the capacity of the kingdom to host major events. His Highness praised the efforts of Bahrain International Circuit's Board of Directors and all the organizing committees, ministries and media in ensuring the success of the event. The Speaker of the Representatives Council, Ahmed Limsalem, congratulated His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister on the success of the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. He affirmed that the achievement adds to the series of successes of hosting this major event, which is in line with the comprehensive development march of His Majesty the King and the efforts of Team Bahrain led by His Royal Highness. He praised the efforts of all ministries and institutions in ensuring the success of this high-profile event. The Chairman of the Shura Council, Ali Saleh, congratulated His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister following the success of the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. He affirmed that this achievement adds to the series of successes of hosting this major event, which is in line with the comprehensive development march of His Majesty the King and the efforts of Team Bahrain led by His Royal Highness. He praised the efforts of all ministries and institutions in ensuring the success of this high-profile event. The Minister of Sustainable Development, Noor Al-Khalif, held a media briefing in the presence of regional and international media representatives. She stressed Bahrain's commitment to achieving all sustainable development goals in all sectors. She pointed out the keenness on adopting initiatives reflecting the 2030 agenda and mapping out policies based on knowledge and innovation. Al-Khalif welcomed all participants and visitors of the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. She emphasized the importance of the race, pointing out the kingdom's commitment to protecting the environment and reaching zero neutrality in 2060. to handle the climate change challenges. The minister cited main projects adopted by Bahrain International Circuit in this respect, including the solar energy project and the new building management system. She noted that Bahrain succeeded in achieving the Millennium Development Goals before the specified date in 2015. She also underscored the kingdom's commitment to achieve SDGs within the UN Agenda 2030. The meeting of the Council of Presidents of the United Nations General Assembly, UNCPGA, began, which is hosted by Bahrain upon the invitation of His Majesty the King, with presidency of Dr. Han Song-Soo. In his opening speech, Dr. Han expressed thanks to Bahrain for hosting the second edition of the Assembly, which aims to provide the expertise of former presidents of the General Assembly to enhance pluralism and achieve the UN Charter's higher objectives. The Council member and President of the 61st session of the General Assembly, Sheikh Hayya bint Rashid Al Khalifa, delivered a speech in which she hailed the convening of the meeting in Bahrain. She stated that the kingdom has exerted all efforts to enhance human rights, combat poverty, and protect the local environment. The president of the current session, Chaba Korosi, hailed the convening of the meeting in Bahrain, expressing thanks to His Majesty the King and the government for the hosting. He reviewed global challenges at all levels, calling for unified efforts to overcome them. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also delivered a speech in which he expressed thanks and appreciation to His Majesty the King for the invitation, noting that the world is currently facing many challenges. The participants held a general discussion to review the most important issues on the agenda of the 77th UN General Assembly.
I'm elected Vice Chair of the UNCPGA, and I'm very proud to do that, and now to be the deputy to my good friend Dr. Han of Korean Republic. And I believe that after some years of inactivity, or very low level of activity, partly given because of the COVID, partly because of the other circumstances. Now I think that this UNCPGA is on the road to a greater international recognition and greater role, both within the UN, where we hope soon to have an observer status in the General Assembly. I've traveled all over the world, especially when I was both a Czech foreign minister and President of the United Nations General Assembly. But I admit that Bahrain is one of the few countries I never visited in my past, and I'm extremely glad to be here today. I arranged to stay several days after our meeting will finish.
And to speak more about the agenda of this meeting, we have with us on the phone the chairperson of UNCPGA and former South Korean Prime Minister, Dr. Han Sang-soo. Hello, Mr. Han. Dr. Han, can you tell us about the significance of holding the council meeting in the Kingdom of Bahrain?
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like, first of all, to thank the kind hospitality of Bahrain and people of Bahrain. As you may know, UNCPGA was created 25 years ago, but we had a new leadership institutionalized last October. And this meeting in Bahrain is the first meeting outside New York since the creation of UNCPGA. And at the kind invitation of Sheikh Haya bin Khalifa, and she was the president of the United Nations General Assembly, 61st session of the United Nations General Assembly, and she was the third president of the United Nations General Assembly. The first women president was Mrs. Pandit of India, the sister of former Prime Minister of Nehru. Anyway, we also had a very interesting meeting with His Majesty King Hamid bin Isa Al Khalifa this afternoon. He was most gracious in accepting us, and also he said that he would like support the activity of the UNCPGA. We are very much happy to hear His Majesty's remarks.
And that was the chairperson of UNCPGA and former South Korean Prime Minister, Dr. Han Sang-soo. Thank you very much for joining us. And to further shed light on the importance of this meeting in the country, we also have with us on the phone expert in foreign affairs and geopolitical issues in the European institutions, Mr. Alan Shalom. Hello, Mr. Shalom. Can you elaborate on the importance of holding the UNCPGA in the Kingdom of Bahrain?
Hello, sir. Thank you for the question. I think this is of major importance for the region and more specifically for Bahrain, because this forum places the kingdom at the center of the UN agenda for 2 days to address the multiple crises we, as international community, we are facing, be it geopolitical, economic, environmental, or linked to energy. I think it's also an opportunity to highlight the initiatives taken by Bahrain to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, and there are many of project initiatives you are taking in the kingdom. And this is finally an important moment to recall Bahrain's commitment to multilateralism and international cooperation, reminding that diplomacy and dialogue are essential, while, as you know, international peace and security seems more threatened and fragile than ever.
And that was expert in foreign affairs and geopolitical issues in the European institutions. Thank you for joining us. The Ministry of Tourism and the Bahrain Tourism and Exhibitions Authority hosted during the Formula One a number of international travel and tourism agents who represent companies organizing trips and tours in a number of the most prominent countries in the world. This came within the framework of keenness to invest in this global sporting event to promote Bahrain and tourism at the regional and international levels. The Ministry and BTEA were keen to organize a program full for visits for international tourist agents, which included introducing them closely to the diversity of tourist destinations in Bahrain. This paved the way for meetings between international tourism agents and a number of representatives of Bahraini tourism establishments in the hotel, hospitality, entertainment, and event organizing sectors. The Kingdom of Bahrain made tremendous success in hosting the 19th edition of the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. More in this report. A new achievement is added to the series of accomplishments of the Kingdom of Bahrain following the success of hosting the 19th edition of the Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023, which is attributed to the wise visions of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, which raised the status of the kingdom on the international level in the motorsports field. Bahraini cadres exerted their utmost efforts to ensure the success of this high-profile event, thanks to the directives of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, in which the event witnessed huge success and large attendance over the course of 3 days. The number of attendants reached around 100,000 people, which reflects the success of this major international event. Bahrain proved its capabilities to host global events efficiently and effectively, in accordance with the highest standards, thanks to the efforts of its people. The Formula One race is a strong booster of the tourism sector in Bahrain, as the indicators for the race this year are a reflection of the tourism strategy 2022 to 2026, which includes sports tourism. More in this report.
The Formula One Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix 2023 achieved a new success for the Kingdom of Bahrain and another imprint on the global tourism map, as this global sporting event contributed to the revitalization of the tourism sector in Bahrain by attracting tourists and contributing to the goals of sports tourism, thus enhancing the kingdom's position as a favorite tourist destination in the region. As a result of the event, hotel reservations witnessed a very high turnout during the hosting of the Formula One race, as the occupancy rate in several hotels reached 100%. Large numbers of restaurants and cafes also participated in the festivals and events accompanying the race, which attracted around 100,000 visitors, half of whom are international visitors. The achievement proves Bahrain's capabilities to host international events with efficiency and competence, as the kingdom has established itself on the international race map to achieve the aspirations of the comprehensive development process and more successes for the Bahrain international circuit and its returns on the national economy.